Bears are a sensational football team, but they haven't faced the likes of Dan Marino, Mark Clayton, or Mark Duper yet. The key for Miami tonight will be putting a makeshift offensive line together, giving Dan Marino enough time to get the ball to the outside, because believe me, Duper and Clayton, they're going to get open.
In 1985, the Chicago Bears had what many believe was the best defense in NFL history.
Man, I'm gonna kill him. Wilbur, I'm gonna get that first.
The defense led the league in points and yards allowed and takeaways, a feat that wasn't accomplished again until the Seattle Seahawks did it 28 years later in 2013. But on this December night in Miami, Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins put together a plan that destroyed that defense in a classic on Monday Night Football. As a side note, my dad was at that game, and he'll tell you it was the greatest night of his life. Okay, not really, but he did say that he didn't have a voice the next day. Let's dive in. The Bears came into week 13, a perfect 12, and looking to become the first team since the 1972 Dolphins to achieve a perfect season. Of course, the perfect storyline for this game was, can the Dolphins prevent the Bears from stealing their record? What most people forget though is that the Bears started 1-4 in the preseason, losing their first 3 games. Of course, NFL fans know that preseason doesn't really matter, but truth be told, fans get a little antsy when your team loses its first 3 games, even if it is the preseason. Interestingly, the Dolphins got off to a disappointing start to their '85 season as well. By week 9, they were behind the Jets and Patriots at 5-4 in their own division. Holy moly. The Jets were 7-2 at the top of the division. Then they finished the regular season by not winning the division and losing in the first round of the playoffs at home. Good Lord, it must have sucked to be a Jets fan in 1985. I know. Jets fans will tell you it sucks to be a Jets fan now.
Unbeknownst to me, I stuck with them through thick and thin, mostly thick. Thick and meaning.
Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la. Whoa there. Anyway, let's get back on track. Coming into the game, Buddy Ryan's defense had not allowed a score in 2 games, with the Bears beating the Cowboys and Falcons by a combined score of 80-0. Miami's strategy was to roll Marino out of the pocket more frequently to avoid the Bears' pass rush. This would prove to catch Chicago off guard, as Marino wasn't exactly known as a mobile quarterback. Interestingly though, Buddy Ryan is on record before the game stating, "I'm scared of this game. Their strength is our weakness," referring to Marino and the Bears' corners respectively. Another tweak that the Dolphins made was taking out their tight end and inserting a 3rd wide receiver. This would put Nat Moore on Bears linebacker Wilbur Marshall. I mentioned before that my dad was at that game. Back then, there were no better home field advantages than a crazy Orange Bowl at night on a mission to defend history. In fact, Miami was 18-1 at home in the Orange Bowl in their previous 19 games. On that night, the Dolphins organization went all out to ensure the atmosphere was even more over the top. The stage was set. The undefeated Bears, the defending AFC champs, Monday Night Football. The entire country was watching. They really were. Cable was fairly new, and there was no such thing as social media or streaming. That game had a Nielsen rating of 29.6, making it the highest ranked Monday Night Football game ever at that time, pulling in 39 million viewers. Huge numbers for a regular season game. On Miami's first possession, they found themselves in a 3rd and 18, but Marino scrambles to his right and finds Mark Duper for a big gain. Then he finds Nat Moore for a 33-yard touchdown to go up 7-zip. That was the first touchdown given up by the Bears in 13 quarters. Chicago comes right back though, starting with a bomb from Steve Fuller to Willie Gault that gets them in the red zone. They then tie it up at 7 with a sneak from Fuller at the 1. Lorenzo Hampton then gives Miami great field position when he takes the kickoff out of the end zone and up the sidelines almost to midfield. Miami's drive stalled though, and they had to settle for a field goal as Duper dropped 2 passes. 10-7, Miami after a 47-yarder by Fuad Reveiz. On the ensuing drive, Miami picks off a Fuller pass to set up the Dolphins inside the Bears' 40. The Bears' defense does its job and sacks Marino, setting up another 3rd and long. Marino then fires a perfect back shoulder pass to Nat Moore on 3rd and 19 to get the Dolphins into the red zone. With the ball at the 12, the Bears' defense once again makes a big play, sacking Marino for an 8-yard loss. But once again, Marino makes a big play, and this time, Duper hangs on to get the ball inside the 10. Miami then scores to make it 17-7 early in the second. Fuller then drives to Bears down the field, but stalls, and they have to settle for a 30-yard field goal by the rookie out of Georgia, Kevin Butler. 17-10 Miami. Next, again, the Bears force Marino into another third and long inside their own 20, but again, Marino scrambles right and hits Duper deep this time. Then, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, the Bears D gets Miami to a 3rd and 7. And of course, Marino finds the second mark's brother, Clayton, for a big gain down to the 2. Miami punches it in from there right after the 2-minute warning to go up 24-10. The Bears, now in what appears to be panic mode, try to force the ball downfield. Miami holds, then blocks a punt with about a minute and a half to go in the half. Marino would then make them pay with a TD pass to Nat Moore to go up 31-10 at the break. As a kid, I was at home watching, and it was getting late on a school night. But this is the part that I remember about that game. Miami scored on every possession in the first half. What people forget about this is that the Bears defense actually played okay, forcing Miami into a bunch of 3rd and longs. But time after time, Marino made them pay and turned those into scores. The Bears did a few more things wrong in the first half as well. 1, they couldn't stop Miami's momentum. They turned the ball over, and all of this kept the crowd in the game. And 2, some of their coaching decisions were questionable. They decided to throw the ball with their starting quarterback on the bench and one of the greatest running backs in NFL history in the backfield, even though the Dolphins' defense was ranked 23rd against the run. At the break, things didn't go well in the Bears' locker room either. The Bears get off to a good start in the 3rd. They intercept Marino on their opening drive, but then fail to capitalize on the good field position when Fuller throws a bad interception. But they take advantage of a fortunate break on the next series after Marino fires a strike to Mark Clayton and Clayton fumbles. After a short drive, Chicago cuts into the lead, 31-17. Next, the Bears try an onside kick, but Miami was ready for it and get great field position. And Marino makes the most of it. His pass is tipped at the line and falls right into the hands of Mark Clayton for a 42-yard touchdown.
They're my friends, and we hang out together all the time, nowadays. And to this day, they say, we knew it wasn't our night when the ball hits one of our guys in the head and it ends up in Mark Clayton's hands for a touchdown.
Chicago kept fighting though, as Dennis Gentry takes the ensuing kickoff from the 1 to midfield. Fuller then drives the offense down for the final score of the game. With the Miami D, knowing that Chicago needed to go downfield, they just pinned their ears back and ran out the clock in the 4th. Chicago even tries to put Jim McMahon in, down by 2 scores late in the 4th. He immediately goes deep and throws it in the end zone to Miami's William Judson. Miami wins 38-24, and Marino finishes one of the best games of his career, 14 of 27 for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Bears' vaunted defense. No other quarterback came close to that performance against that Bears defense, and no other offense scored more points on them that season. A couple of things you may have missed from that night in Miami. First, the crowd was so raucous, the game had multiple stoppages due to crowd noise.
Yes, Fuller is under the center. Going to take the snap from the center, maybe. No.
The great Walter Payton was rendered mostly a non-factor in the game due to Miami's first half scoring frenzy, but he did rush for 121 yards on 23 carries. Chicago fans will argue that Jim McMahon, their starting quarterback, didn't play that game, and that's fair, but there's no denying that arguably the best defense in NFL history couldn't stop Marino. Chicago fans could also argue that the loss in Miami would serve as a motivational refocus, making them even more dominant. And there's certainly evidence to prove that. Only division rival Detroit scored over 10 points on them the rest of the season. In the playoffs, Chicago continued their dominant run, winning the first 2 rounds by a combined score of 45-0. Then, doing the Super Bowl shuffle on top of the New England Patriots, 46-10 to finish the season 18-1 with the most wins in NFL history. Miami went on to win the rest of their games to finish the regular season 12-4, winning the tight AFC East on a 7-game winning streak. The Dolphins certainly looked headed for their second straight Super Bowl and on a collision course with the Bears for a rematch. But New England stunned them in a shocking upset 31-14, where they turned Miami's 6 turnovers into 24 points. Marino would get to the AFC Championship game only one more time in 1992, but had many more great games in his Hall of Fame career. On this night, though, he dominated arguably the best team in NFL history. So, what do you think? Were the '85 Chicago Bears the best team in NFL history? Was this Dan Marino's best game in his career? No matter what, though, you gotta admit, it must have been a fun night for Dolphin fans in Miami.
That night, the energy within that stadium, in 13 years of playing professional football, I never felt it before then, and I never felt it after that. And I've been in some big ball games. I've been in 2 Super Bowls. I've been around loud and rambunctious crowds. But that particular night, it was so electric.
Thanks for watching. We have more great football memories coming.